Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of now. I'm Alex Mahajer. It is Tuesday, February 9th, and today, the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump begins in the United States Senate. It is only the fourth presidential impeachment trial in history, and the second for Donald Trump. He's only the first president in American history to be impeached twice, and today, the hearing will begin on the charges that he incited the insurrection that happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. We're going to discuss what to expect in the hearing, what the structure of the hearing will look like. We're going to talk about some video that's not going to look very good for Trump, the likelihood of success of the Democrats on their quests to convict Donald Trump and make sure he doesn't run for office ever again, and cover a little bit of Joe Biden news this morning and some top headlines. All of this and more on the AM Report. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining the AM Report. I'm Alex Mahajer. If you're watching on the HAPS app, website, or platform, click the award button. Let us know you're enjoying the program, and the award will pop up on screen right ahead of us right here. Or if you're watching on Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, wherever you might be watching, leave a comment, and actually I can read them and we can bat around live on air. Let me know how you're feeling today ahead of this second impeachment trial, which will begin this afternoon in the U.S. Senate. The second impeachment of former President Donald Trump, set to begin this afternoon. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Are you feeling like very hopeful? I know there's not much likelihood that Republicans will vote to convict Donald Trump, and there is a 2/3 majority of senators needed to convict Donald Trump. But are you feeling hopeful? Do you feel like the Democrats have a chance to change hearts and minds now that they have control of that chamber? We know that because of this election, previous election, the November election, the Democrats now have control of that chamber. So they're not bound by the same parliamentary rules and obstructiveness of Mitch McConnell and some of his Senate Republican cohorts to block witnesses or to do things like limit the hearing in ways that handicap the effectiveness of the presentations. Commenter says, I'm interested in what new evidence there is. It makes me hopeful. And we're going to get into that just in just a moment, neat nefariousness. But thank you. We're going to talk about this new evidence, and we're going to talk about it, what the Democrats are likely to present as a part of their case in chief. But let's cover some of today's headlines first. Today in Biden news, President Joe Biden, not paying very much attention to this impeachment hubbub at all. He's not paying attention. He has expressed he's not going to be really paying attention. He's got work to do. Today, he's set to ask 56 Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys for their resignations, and wants to fast-track the COVID-19 stimulus package through the reconciliation process. As we know today, Democrats have begun to draft the actual legislation. So last week, they passed resolutions to make this a budget reconciliation bill. In both the House and the Senate, they passed these resolutions. And a budget reconciliation bill means they can pass the final bill with a simple majority, with just a simple majority, rather than needing 60 votes in the Senate, which would seriously encumber their chances of passing this legislation, because we know that Republicans are going to get behind it. Biden saying he wants the $1.9 trillion and to plow ahead. He wants to fast track this. So Democrats have begun writing the legislation that will make this actual law. And that is COVID-19 stimulus and Biden's attempts to overturn these U.S. attorneys. U.S. attorneys, usually it's pretty typical for new presidential administrations to get rid of the previous administration's U.S. attorneys, because they want the Department of Justice to sort of reflect their ideology and their vision for the country. Let's see. Commenter says, I am curious about Dems evidence. South Gift says, I'm curious about Dems evidence. I've been watching Trump's news. Along with Dems news, seems to me Trump's team has everything. That's interesting. I feel like the Trump team doesn't have much at all. But let's talk about a little bit about the Trump impeachment trial and get right into it and what evidence we're going to be seeing. And I'm going to play some of that evidence for you today. Trump's impeachment trial will start today, and what you need to know is that the second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump begins this afternoon in the United States Senate for incitement to insurrection. That is the official charge, that on January 6th, there was a violent insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, and that Donald J. Trump incited that insurrection, not just through his speech that was given directly before this violent takeover of the Capitol, but in the months preceding this insurrection, he was spreading lies about the vote, about the outcome of the election, implying, expressly stating that it was stolen, that the results were fraudulent, and whipping his supporters into a frenzy that resulted in a violent takeover of the Capitol building. And yesterday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat, laid out the rules of the trial. So we're going to lay out a little bit of that today too. And hello from St. John, Nadea Labadans. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. I love seeing you guys chime in from across the country and around the world, actually. So if you are watching this, let me know where you're watching this from and what you're thinking ahead of today's impeachment trial. So the news today, a HuffPost analysis suggests that Trump, it wasn't just the speech at the Capitol. Trump lied hundreds of times about a stolen election in the months ahead of the January 6th insurrection. So a HuffPost analysis found that former President Trump falsely claimed more than 100 times that Democrats had rigged or stolen the 2020 election before this insurrectionist attack that happened. And so we're not just talking about a speech that he gave outside the White House on the same day where he's saying fight like hell. We're also talking about the months of lies in which he knowingly, because Donald Trump knows that the election was legitimate, he's knowingly lying because the outcome was not one that was favorable to him. And so, you know, it's not just the literal incitement, it was the months preceding as well. And I believe that is going to be part of what the Democrats are making as part of their case. And in order to rebut some of Donald Trump's defense, because we know Donald Trump's defense is going to be his words weren't literal. He didn't mean to literally attack the Capitol. He didn't mean to literally fight like hell. And they're also going to defend unconstitutionality, saying he's a former president, that this is moot. You can't impeach a former president. But now we're learning from White House officials who were there with the president at the White House that former aides of the White House are telling reporters at CNN and other media outlets that Donald Trump enjoyed watching his supporters storm the U.S. Capitol, that he was, quote, loving watching the Capitol mob, and that former senior White House officials are telling outlets that he loved it. And he was slow to act. His first real action that he took as he was watching this happen unfold live on television, because that's what he was doing, he was watching live on television, was to tweet out an hour into the violent insurrection beginning, was to tweet out an attack on Mike Pence, saying that Mike Pence failed his duty to the American people to stop the steal. So an hour into this insurrection, he had the power to stop it, to call in the National Guard, to tweet out in opposition to it, to tell his supporters to stand down, and he did not do it. He didn't do it. He was loving watching it, and now we're hearing that officials at the White House he was loving watching it. He was enjoying it. And a lot of the Republicans who have spoken out against him, and there are not that many in the House, only 10, I say only 10 Republicans voted to impeach him, but that's quite actually historically a lot. In the very few historical examples we have of a presidential impeachment, it's not common that members of Congress flip across party lines in order to vote for impeachment. It's usually something that happens on party lines. So, but the Republicans that did speak out against him are very upset primarily by the fact that he didn't do more to intervene. That once he knew that this was happening, he did not step up to intervene until very, very, very much so later, in a really casual tweet where he's saying, stay peaceful. But this is after the Capitol's already been breached. And maybe to cover his own butt, he's tweeting out, stay peaceful. And then a video where he's telling the violent mob of domestic terrorists that they are loved. So we're going to continue watching what goes on here with this, but let's talk a little bit about the structure of this hearing. So first, the structure is going to look a little bit like this. And we know this because Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has released the outline of the rules of engagement. So number one, there's going to be 4 hours of debate and then a vote this afternoon on the constitutionality of the impeachment trial, and whether or not they can do this hearing for a president who has already left office. A simple majority is needed to proceed, and the Democrats will have a simple majority. So why they are debating again about the constitutionality of this, I'm not clear on that. But what I do know is that we had Miranda Yavor on yesterday, political scientist, constitutional scholar, and she was saying that, and in no uncertain terms, it's unequivocal, that the Congress has the right to impeach federal officials even after they've left office, that there is case law and precedent on this, and that this defense is one that is being disingenuously brought by Trump's lawyers and parroted by Republican senators who just want this to go away. They don't want to deal with it on the merits. They want to get rid of it on procedural merits. But again, elections have consequences, and now Democrats control the majority. Only a simple majority is needed in order to move this process along past that first step. So this afternoon, 4 hours of debate about whether this hearing is constitutional for a former president. A simple majority vote is needed. Then, after that, tomorrow will begin up to 4 8-hour days of arguments. So each side will get 2 8-hour days. So each side will get 16 hours, meaning a total of 4 8-hour days of arguments. The House managers arguing for impeachment will go first. And what we're hearing is that there's going to be a lot of video, presentation. The Democrats have collected a great deal of video, and that will be a part of their case in chief. The Trump defense attorneys will then go second, and their defense is expected to be that the words "fight like hell" weren't literal and that the hearing isn't constitutional. They're going to say that he's not in office anymore, that this is pointless, we don't need to do this. But I'm going to play for you a little bit of the video, literally of insurrectionists parroting the words of Donald Trump, who they heard speak just moments before they stormed up to the Capitol Rotunda and then breached the building. And we know that 5 people died at this insurrection. 5 human beings died, and perhaps a 6th who committed suicide after the insurrection happened, including a Capitol Police officer. Here's the some video that we expect Democrats to introduce as part of their case in chief, and there will be a lot of video.
We fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Fight for Trump! Fight for Trump! Fight for Trump! Fight for Trump!
We will never give up. We will never concede.
USA!
We will stop the steal.
Stop the steal!
The House.
Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Invade the Capitol building. Let's take the Capitol. Let's take it.
There it is, some of the video that's expected to be presented before the Senate in this impeachment trial of Donald Trump. I want to say hello to HAP's CEO, Mark Goldman. Good morning, Mark. Good to see you. Hello from Los Angeles. It's good to see you guys on the program. Ari Bobari saying hello from Minneapolis. I love seeing people join in from across the country and around the world. If you're watching, let me know where you're watching from. I love the comments. I'm reading your comments live on air. Let's see. Neat Nefariousness is saying, ordinarily I would want checks on the Dems, but there was so much corruption in the last administration. It's going to take decades to fix what was broken. And I think that is why Democrats are forging forward with this impeachment hearing. They understand that Trump's no longer in office, but first of all, one of the consequences of votes to convict is that they can then vote after the conviction vote to preclude Trump from ever holding elected office in the United States ever again, federal office in the United States. I think Democrats have a vested interest in making sure that happens, but also because of exactly what you're saying, to fix what is broken. And the first step towards healing is accountability, and that there must be some historical record here that shows that despite partisanship, that the American Congress, when a coup was attempted on the steps of their on the steps of the House of Democracy, that the American Congress took action, regardless of their party lines, to ensure that it was punished and that it was spoken for. And so Democrats, I know, believe that this is crucial and important, that accountability is needed. And so we will see how this pans out. But we will nonetheless see a lot of video from House managers who are bringing their impeachment hearing to the U.S. Senate over the next few days. What we are anticipating is, because of the math, the calendar math, that the final vote may happen on President's Day, which I just think is sort of fitting and hilarious, that in this hypothetical, not realistic world, where the video presentations of the House managers sways 17 Republicans, which is what will be needed to convict Donald Trump, it will happen on President's Day. But there is no illusion that that's likely to happen. Either way, up to 4 8-hour days, 16 hours for the impeachment managers, 16 hours for Trump's lawyers to argue the merits of their case. And then after that, senators will have time to ask questions of the two legal teams after the initial days of arguments conclude. And this will be a total of 4 hours. And then they will debate on whether to call witnesses. Now, very famously, in Donald Trump's first impeachment, and again, this is his second impeachment, only the first president in American history to be impeached twice, and he represents 50% of all presidential impeachments in American history. But if you'll recall, during the first impeachment, when Republicans maintained control of the U.S. Senate, they voted to not hear witnesses. And that was a much more complicated case. That was a case where his bribing of Ukraine and using money as leverage over financial aid over Ukraine to try to force their hands to conduct political investigations into Joe Biden, who's now president, didn't work out too well for Trump. But in any case, it was more complicated, and there was a lot of evidence, and Republicans obstructed, and they had the majority, and they voted to not hear witnesses. Now Democrats have the majority, so we'll see. But there's less evidence there's really less witnesses really needed. We know that the House impeachment managers wanted to call Donald Trump to subpoena him. He has expressed that he will not be there. He will not attend. He will not speak. But we will see. That will be the next step, will be to debate whether witnesses are needed. And then finally, there will be up to 4 hours of closing arguments, 2 hours per side, and then an unspecified amount of time for senators to deliberate, and then a vote on the articles of impeachment. So a conviction will require 67 senators to present, 67 senators or 2/3 of the senators present to vote guilty. And then after that, if they convict, they can vote to bar him from holding office ever again in the future. So you keep your eyes on the space. This will begin this afternoon. Tomorrow, of course, we will provide you plenty of updates right here on the AM Report. I want to thank you all for joining the AM Report this morning, for all of your comments. Really love seeing your comments. Thank you guys so much. We are live every weekday morning with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, consider sponsoring it. You can do that by visiting me at haps.tv/@Alex, where you can become a recurring monthly sponsor like Mark Goldman or Tim David or Sarah Kalogli or Daryl Archibald, Janet Miller, Joshua Mast, Ann Carlson. I want to thank you guys, Adam Cobb. Thank you guys for your at Pablo de la Hoya. Thank you guys for your recurring monthly sponsorships. It helps sustain independent journalism. Or click the award button, let us know you're enjoying it, or just click subscribe and we will let you know when we are going live every morning. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for joining the AM Report, and we'll see you all tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.